For the Reform Party, Ross Perot. Mr. Perot, welcome to our live coverage.
Good evening.
Good evening. What is going through your mind? What did you accomplish in this run?
I certainly think we've got them all committed to campaign finance reform. They're talking the right words now. They're making the right commitments. We will have to stay at the gate and be vigilant to make sure that they make the changes in campaign finance form, come through with a balanced budget amendment, a plan to balance the budget, and work out all the steps necessary to pass on a better, stronger country to our children, because that's what drives everybody in the Reform Party. We cannot stand the thought of spending our children's money and leaving them a debt they cannot pay in the 21st century. If the Republicans and Democrats will do it, we'll be excited. We'll help them every way we can, but it has to be done, so we'll stick around until it's done.
Mr. Perot, let me be very blunt. Bob Dole might be able to sit back tonight and say that you cost him the presidency. If you add up what he got in terms of a vote and what you got, and he asked you to get out of the race, he might have been the winner. What would you say to Bob Dole if he were to, I mean, what do you say to that?
I say what I said since 1992. Now, Republicans are taught at birth to make that statement. Anytime they lose, that I defeated them. The facts are, if you get the exit polls, and your network helped pay for them, I drew equally for both candidates in 92. I did not elect Bill Clinton. I think that the same exit polls will show this time that I drew more votes from President Clinton. You noticed he's been dropping. And I think you'll see that most of those were caused. We drew them from him. But you can't keep people from repeating myths. I don't worry about it.
Ross Perot, a lot of people are saying that the Reform Party, with you incarnate as the party is a one-man band, namely Ross Perot, and that the party is on the ropes, and a lot of people are questioning whether your Reform Party will even be around in 4 years. What say you?
I say watch it. They said we couldn't create it, and we did in 10 months. Normally it takes 2 years in California. We did it in 18 days. Again and again and again, we have to endure this from the establishment. And that is broader than the two parties when I say the establishment. But that's because people like to keep things just the way they are and don't want to upset the status quo. And the history of man will teach you that it's human nature to keep things just the way they are until after a crisis develops. We are doing everything we can to see that the changes are made that will keep a financial crisis from occurring. And we will continue to do that. And it's certainly not a one-man band. There are millions of people involved, and they've done a wonderful job.
All right, Ross Perot, we thank you very much, and we congratulate you on your effort in this presidential campaign. Now to California, let's listen to Jack Kemp, the Republican nominee for vice president.
38 years ago. And this wonderful family, this has been the greatest experience of my life. I thank him, and I thank you, and I thank the millions of Americans who voted for the Dole-Kemp ticket. I called Al Gore, I called the vice president as well, offered, wait. Come on, you guys. This is my microphone. Harrington paid for it. But I called Vice President Gore and offered my congratulations to him and the president. And I told him that President Clinton and Al Gore have our prayers and our best wishes as he begins his second term as president. Let me say on behalf of all Americans, Republican and Democrat alike, we thank Bob Dole, his wife Elizabeth, for their commitment to our nation. We thank them for their decency, their grace, and their courage, and their indefatigable spirit. No one will ever forget it. Thank you, Bob. Joanne and I have profound respect and admiration and affection for Bob. He has conducted himself in this campaign in the same heroic way he conducted himself in the military and in his whole career in the United States Congress and the Senate, and we thank him for that.
Jack Kemp talking to his supporters in Costa Mesa, California. He's all the way across the country, on the other side of the country from Bob Dole. We've got another state to call for Bob Dole, and that is South Dakota. This is a state that George Bush won, the Republicans won in 1992, so it's not a big surprise, but it's been dangling out there, and we just are able to call it just now.
Now, let's go back up to the Northeast in New Hampshire. Robert Smith, the incumbent Republican, he hung on by his fingernails, and he's going to be going back to Washington. Bob Smith, the winner there in New Hampshire.
And in the state of Montana, Max Baucus, the Democrat, hangs on. This turned out to be a much closer race than Max Baucus would have liked, but he is now able to return to Washington as the U.S. Senator from the state of Montana.
Don't go away. CNN will be back with more coverage on this election night. The culmination of Campaign 96 continues in a moment.
We were hearing from our analysts Kellyanne Fitzpatrick and Farai Chiday a little while ago, and we want to go back to them now. We left them, they're right where we left them, in the newsroom at CNN here in Atlanta. You both listened, I'm sure, to Bob Dole's remarks. Farai, what struck you about what he had to say?
Well, he tried, as Kemp did, to be somewhat conciliatory. In both camps, the supporters of Dole and Kemp started booing. I think that both former Senator Dole and his running mate Jack Kemp realize that this is the political reality of the age and that they are going to have to encourage their supporters to move forward. And I think that's a welcome message.
In politics, Judy, I would say the high road is the one less traveled many times, and Bob Dole certainly has gone out of this race with grace and dignity. I think that he took into the last 96 hours of his campaign marathon. History will treat Bob Dole very, very kindly, I think.
From each of you, your consummate thoughts about this evening's returns.
There was no surprise on the presidential level, but what we should take away from this is that there was a certain grace to the end of this campaign, and hopefully we can ask for that sort of grace to be displayed during the campaigns. I'm afraid, unfortunately, that the Clinton-Dole campaign managed to alienate a lot of people. I expect tomorrow, when we look at some of the final numbers, that a lot of Americans will have stayed away from the voting booth. So we need to find ways, both politicians do, to encourage without alienating.
As the night wears on, Bernie, I would keep a watchful eye on the House and some of those down-to-the-wire Senate races, particularly out west. Some of the things that surprised me, really, I think Republicans were hoping to pick up all 4 of the open Democratic seats in the South. They've picked up 2, but they were able to hang on to New Hampshire, it seems, and also picked up 1 in Nebraska that some weren't calling. And I think that the Senate is going to come out very strong for Republicans, probably with some modest gains, as well as the House. The hysterical predictions of 40 of the 70 House freshmen going down certainly is not going to be true. As CNN has called, the House will stay Republican.
Kellyanne Fitzpatrick, Farai Chiday, thanks very much. Out in San Francisco, Greg Lefebvre has been monitoring traffic on the internet. What does it look like, Greg?
It is so busy, it is bumper to bumper, if you can be that on the internet. As one person put it, this is the mother of all nights on the internet. Traffic has been astonishingly heavy, much greater than predicted. For example, here at CNN, at the CNN All Politics website, we've been adding computers all day to take care of the load. But here's what happens. Let's go to the computer screen. And for example, we will go here and we will look for the Clinton-Gore campaign website, which has been very busy. And this is the message most people get. You can't get through. What's happened all around the internet is that private news agencies like ourselves, public agencies like many of the states that monitor voting and report voting, as well as the various campaigns around the country, have all developed their own websites. Many people, millions of people around the country, are dialing those in, and they're jamming the system. The system is at a near meltdown. It is extremely busy. For example, the figures here at CNN, the CNN All Politics website has generated about 5 million hits an hour. A hit is, if you will, a request for a page. That will translate to about 50 million hits over this election evening, certainly a record for us and for many others. We've spoken with other internet providers, and some of them say you're lucky if you can get in. Folks who are dialing in from home with the typical, what's called a 28.8 modem, a particular speed modem, may have to wait for a very, very long time. A very busy night on the internet. Let's go back to the national desk.
All right, I'd love to know what some of those people are saying.
Absolutely,
That's
I'd
the
like
part
it.
that but it's hard to do that because, and as he said, clearly many people are trying to get in and are not able to.
We're going to pause, and when we come back, the Capitol Gang. Wonder what they have to say about this night.